we'll see how my battery goes, because it was basically run out before, and I'll be charging it off my extra battery here and hoping for the best.
Okay, so it may be a short one. Good evening. It's that time again. It's the Halloween special. Hence, I'm going into the upside down, and I probably need to enter into an alternative universe as we talk X-Men, and we're going to talk now the reimagining of the franchise. So we've just gone through a heavy, heady, serious amount of Wolverine, and now we march on into a reimagining and a reawakening of X-Men. And we've got 4 films to talk about tonight. And as you can see, Munt is absolutely ready for this. We're going to talk X-Men First Class.
Look at him, he's on the edge of his seat.
We're going to talk X-Men Days of Future Past. We're going to talk X-Men Apocalypse and X-Men Dark Phoenix. So I'm going to kick things off. They are so just sort of meh that I forgot what happens in most of them, except these 2. So I remember in that one, Wolverine tells the guys to F off. That one, he's sort of back and does stuff, or the other way around. That's appalling, and that's one of the worst films that's ever been put to print. So yeah, X-Men First Class. We had new people.
I love it.
James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender, really.
Matthew Vaughn directed it. I thought it was a great turnaround. I thought, yeah, fantastic. The only thing I didn't like, as a comic book purist and everything, I'd have loved for them to have actually gone back and done the actual proper original X-Men, done Cyclops, Beast, Angel, Iceman, and Marvel Girl. And, really kicked it back and taken on Magneto for the first time, rather than making him part of the setup. But it makes sense for the story they've told. They always kept saying, that Magnus helped build Cerebro and stuff. So, yeah, put him in there together with them and stuff like that. The idea of introducing the Hellfire Club as the villains, great idea as well. I actually really enjoyed it. It could have been better. It could have been cast better. I like January Jones. I just don't think that she's a particularly good Emma Frost. Well, I'll come back on that. I don't think she's a good Emma Frost, full stop. I think she's lovely, absolutely lovely, and she's a wonderful actress, but she was the wrong casting for that role there. Your man out of Lockstock as Hazel is great. That's a fantastic piece of casting, actually. He's excellent. The Whirlwind guy, he could have been anybody. He doesn't really, you don't even register like words that he says or anything like that. Kevin Bacon as a Sebastian Smith, fantastic. Sebastian Shaw is absolutely cracking. He chews up the scenery. He's pulling a full Rickman there. It's like, I really enjoyed that. But there's like Rosie Byrne is absolutely, oh God, she's lovely. She is ridiculously lovely. Who the hell thought, though, that you could recast blaming Sir Patrick Stewart, and then James McAvoy comes in with hair and does the role?
Did a decent
job. And it works really well. It doesn't work later in time when they try and make it cross over, like when they finish him, and he's supposed to be 10 years away from looking like Patrick Stewart in the first one, thinking, no, this isn't happening. No. But the recasting of the roles of Professor X and Magneto, they cast 2 absolutely fantastic actors with Patrick Stewart and Sir Ian McKellen, and then they recast those roles with 2 fantastic, amazing actors, with James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender, and that worked really well. Nicholas Holt's casting as Beast, I always thought of Beast as like, quite a heavy-set, muscular, chunky guy, but Nicholas Holt absolutely grabbed hold of that role and really made the part his own. He took the geeky side of Beast, which Beast always has this, he's a massive geek. He's just, he's a heavily muscular, massive geek, and it worked really well. Jennifer Lawrence comes in, and in that first movie, it works really well for her. Not for the rest of the movies, but for that first movie, I was just like thinking, well, who the hell's this? She's fantastic.
Yeah.
And then she throws all of that goodwill away later on. Banshee comes, the kid playing Banshee looks like him, but he just isn't him, and he's not even Irish at all in the slightest. He's not even attempting to be Irish. Oh, I think your brother's gone to sleep. Shh, don't wake him up. The bastard's bite. Oh. Look at him. Look, I bet he's being fiddled with now. Shh. Don't.
I'm quite fucking finished now.
No, I've still got more characters to go through. Loads. Darwin, they should have made much more of Darwin. They completely wasted the character of Darwin, a guy who evolves to every situation, but for some reason can't evolve to absorb Sebastian Shaw's energy blast. Yes, he fucking well could have. That's his whole thing. He changes to evolve. He evolves to survive and change. He'd have absorbed that and carried on, and that's it. Would have been fine. The new Angel character, Lenny Kravitz's daughter, yeah, she's like a villain in the comic books, and she's the little like tubby sort of girl and everything, but she was good. That was a nice character. There was lots that I liked about the First Class. I thought that started out with so much promise and hope, and I kind of wished that he'd been able to carry on with it. But that was at the time that they heard that somebody else was making a film just like the Kingsman idea, and he was doing Kingsman with Mark Miller at the time, and he wanted to go off and do that before somebody else ripped them off. Well, I really enjoyed First Class. I really did. It stands a strong chance of being my #1 X-Men film, full stop.
I thought, all joking aside, I thought it was all right. But genuinely, it doesn't grab me with, oh my God, yeah, this is what happens. You're right. I love the casting, and I didn't think I was going to. Fassbender is brilliant as Magneto, and McAvoy does a decent job for me as Professor X. And yeah, Jennifer Lawrence, got the Wolverine treatment. Oh my God, she's become famous. Let's absolutely pepper her all over these when we get further and deeper into them.
That first one, she worked great. They just spoiled it in the rest of them.
Do you know what I liked about the first one as well? Was the fact that it wasn't heavily Wolverined. We got weaned off it. It was like, oh, that's all he's in it. Great. Because I think we needed that.
They even had Oliver Platt in there, and I love him. I love the guy's great. I mean, like Lake Placid is a film that I absolutely, I love Lake Placid. And he pops up again, and he as the Man in Black in there, who was a character in the comic books in the early days. He was the CIA liaison guy, and he pops in it, and it works really, really well.
And we know Mark really enjoyed it. So should we move on to X-Men Days of Future Past?
No, the biggest problem I've got with X-Men First Class is it was one of the biggest wasted opportunities ever. It was their chance to say, right, wipe the slate clean, let's properly start from scratch. And as the movie progresses, you can see they are too scared to move away from the universe they've already created. So it quite clearly becomes apparent that during halfway through this movie that this is actually a prequel to all the X-Men movies that have gone before. And they were too fucking scared to just go, right, let's start from scratch. And like all of the X-Men films, it starts off great, the middle act is wonderful, and the third act is fucking found in, boring, fall asleep, I want to go and do something else. Can't hold my attention. It's...
Wait a second, the teleporter fight between Beast and Azazel you thought was phoned in, I can't... No, that was really flaming good. And the whole Cuban Missile thing, I thought the Cuban Missile Crisis, tying it into that, was actually pretty damn clever. It was something they hadn't done through the movies up to that point. They took that idea too far, like in future ones, but when this movie came out, this movie was, I thought, an interesting, clever step for it. And to me, it didn't suffer from a lot of the pacing problems that a lot of the other ones did. It was a nice first building block for a new universe. I think afterwards they started getting problems with it. The fact that they jumped to Days of Future Past on the second one, whereas they wanted to build towards that, really. They wanted to have another film in between. And then that was Matthew Vaughn's idea, was to have that First Class, have another film, and then build it towards the Days of Future Past third one. But the cinemas that the film companies liked it so much, liked what had happened there. They just wanted that. We want that now. We want it now.
And then it sort of tailed off for me. And this is the issue I have with it, because you know where I'm going to go. So spot the difference. X-Men First Class, right? Fassbender, McAvoy, something different. There is a name that automatically on the next one just makes you go, oh, God, they've gone all Wolverine again. And, yeah.
Something else that pisses me off about that cover. Hold that cover up again. We've waited so long to see Sentinels, and this film shows what a big fucking waste of time it all was.
How crap were they?
I'm sorry, but this film roils the fuck out of me, right? It starts out great, and I've got to hand it to them. They drawed me in on that first act, and then we get Quicksilver come into it, and he's fucking brilliant. He's running around, and they go and rescue Magneto. And they've finally got an X-Man that can really help them fight a battle, really fucking do some good stuff. He can run around really fast. They could really do with this guy. So what do? They pat him on the and send him fucking home. What the actual fuck? What's going on?
We can afford to do one big scene with this character. One big scene, that's it. You know, he wasn't even due to be in it originally. They were going to have Juggernaut to go in there and break out Magneto originally. Quicksilver was brought in as an afterthought.
The best character, they bring in the best action scene in the entire fucking film, and it's over and done within 20 minutes, and he's packed off. That was tragic, right? And then it just gets fucking worse because they tried to. We don't need fucking silly time travel fucking comedy. They leave that to Back to the Future movies. It doesn't fucking work. That was irritating the shit out of me. And fucking cause and causality. Fucking don't set up your rules, right? At the beginning of the fucking film and then ignore them when it comes to the end just to fucking suit you. It's a fucking mess. The whole thing is a fucking mess. If you want to make a time travel movie, do it fucking properly. It's a fucking mess. It's a mess. And even the rogue cut does not fucking help this fucking movie in any way, shape or form, right? And you have this big fucking build-up to a load of fucking Sentinels. This big battle's about to happen, and we solve it all by having a chat. We have a fucking chat. And everybody fucking stops and goes home and puts a fucking kettle on. Fucking hate the film. Bollocks.
You do know, though, that Days of Future Past is a time travel thing. It's always been. It's on a time travel story. You can't lose the time travel aspect of it.
I've got no problem with that.
The fact that they tried to do it, though, with Kitty Pryde instead of using Rachel Summers, the actual character from the future, who could step back in time. I can carry on talking as well. Let's see how this goes. This is really ace. I bet this is as brilliant as last time we did all this as well. Yeah, I'll carry on talking about it now.
I have to say, I agree with Mark about the Sentinels. So I was, and you know what? This leads me very neatly into the next one. I won't go on to the next one yet. But how disappointing were the Sentinels in it? Because I thought, I was the same as you. I looked again at the cover and went, I don't remember them being in it. And then actually, yeah, I do remember them being in it. Oh, how disappointing was that? It was just all right. First one I thought was really good. The second was like, oh, so much promise. What a great idea. Too much Wolverine. We've just had 6 bloody films of him. Now we've got him again. Now we've got too much Jennifer Lawrence. Now we've got too much going on. And now we've got a disappointing baddie. And then, well, I mean, this is an appalling film. Martin, you're the person who knows about the subject material.
I'll go back a minute though.
Please, hang on. Please tell me.
Days of Future Past is a Wolverine story.
Okay, I get that.
He's stepped back, and the whole reason that he works there is he's the only character who could do it because he's the slow aging one. So it's putting his older mind back into his younger body, and that's the reason why he'd be there. The fact that they used Kitty Pryde to do it, who's never had anything to do with that sort of, rather than using a mental manipulation sort of character to, you know, to actually do it instead, which in the future they used Rachel Summers, the child of Jean Grey and Scott Summers, who never existed in like their timeline, just existed in an alternate future timeline. That was always the interesting part of it. But to use Kitty Pryde, I thought was just piss poor and weak to me. But I suppose they just picked the youngest character that they'd had before, and then tried to use them, say, "Oh, this one's grown up," and use it. But,
and there's also the fact that they'd killed off Scott Summers in that universe, so that character couldn't exist then because he was dead.
Yeah, there's lots of that weirdness. I mean, technically, they killed off Professor X, haven't they? Really, you know, beforehand. Yeah, but then he sort of, when you watch the end of that film, obviously he's like in another body and pops up, but then he's in his own body again. So
just fucking
they mess around. What was it? The Fox thing, as John Campion always says, continuity, schmontinuity. So they don't really give a shit.
So the issue I get with this then is, I then went Apocalypse.
Well, I've got an issue with it. It's shit.
So somebody said Apocalypse. So Martin, you're the expert on the source material, so I lean on you for this. I always thought Apocalypse was going to be an enormous, powerful being.
And they give you one bit of it with the battle with Professor X at the end when suddenly he grows.
They cast Poe Dameron and Roger Taylor. They cast Poe Dameron and Roger Taylor out of Bohemian Rhapsody. It is Oscar Isaac's performance is appalling. It makes
I don't think it's Oscar Isaac's performance. I think it's what's given to him there. I think is very weak. I mean, what they do with the character is just poor. It's really poor.
Oh, it's just so bad.
The backstory of Apocalypse is interesting. Or El Sabano.
X-Men, I took a shit because that's just what it is. I'm saying there's not much redeeming from this. The most disappointing thing I got from this was the fact that it looked like Ivan Ooze from fucking Power Rangers.
Yes.
When we first saw it, the colour was wrong. But from my understanding and lack of understanding from Apocalypse, I thought he was going to be a Thanos-type character.
Yeah, and me.
He should be. He should be. In the world of mutants, he is that level of character.
Yeah.
He's a guy who manipulates every molecule in his body. He's the first mutant. There's argument that might be Namor, but it's basically El Sabano, Apocalypse, is the first mutant. He was found as a grey kid by nomadic Egyptians, all that, and starts off, he is the first. He is the first one to be found there. And then he finds this alien technology and just keeps growing and growing and absorbing more powers and everything like that. He should be an overall awesome, as you say, a Thanos level villain. He should have been absolutely massive. He's not a one film and done sort of villain. He should have been lurking around for ages there. He should have been, you could have done with having the Four Horsemen really appearing before he even appeared. Him having set up stuff, that would have been great. But the only things I really liked out of the film were, I liked the way they brought in Storm. I liked the young girl that they cast as Storm. I thought she was good. I liked the fact that finally Professor X loses his hair. I didn't like the way that they made him do it as part of his power set. I think he'd just been a bald guy, that was it. He started off as a blonde kid when he was young, and then he was just bald, and that was it. Those were really the two things that I liked about this.
They were the most positive.
I did not give a shit. I like the set piece with the pyramids when they're collapsing it at first. The first one when he's got his early horseman, like the animal like looking guy and the woman who's protecting him and stuff. I like that little set piece when they're knocking down the poles and having the whole thing collapse. Apart from that, you could really hold on. I'll just touch this TV screen. Learning. Oh yeah, that's the way that fucking works. That's fantastic. It's painfully shit. It's expensive shit, but it's painfully shit. It's not good.
Going back to Quicksilver again. Going back to Quicksilver again, that bit where they're about to start fighting and then Quicksilver's going round and hitting him. I thought, fucking hell, this is great. We're actually going to see a good battle now.
And then it's stuck in the sand.
But then nothing else happens. The rest of it's just fucking appalling. He should have been fucking throwing these X-Men characters around and what we had was Magneto fucking flying around doing some shit, and everybody standing around talking, and I just don't know. It was just weird. It was a very weird conclusion.
They do some nice moments in most of the films, really showing like a big power set from Magneto. And this one, they're sort of overpowering him, having him ripping up the world and everything, ripping all the metal out of the world and all that. And then it's like that, it's gone, it's all done, and you don't really care. You're not invested in it. Some of them I've had more investment in. This one I had very little investment in, full stop.
I honestly thought we were going to have 20 to 30 X-Men fighting one great big massive fucking bad guy and fucking pipping Marvel Studios to the post with a fucking big godlike Thanos battle.
If they'd done a proper Age of Apocalypse where it had been another alternate reality, which they'd already gone into the alternate reality ideas with doing the Days of Future Past before, they could have done with a film separating it. Do a follow-on from Days of Future Past, what it was going to be as the next film, then do Age of Apocalypse as your last film, and even forego the Dark Phoenix saga, having another crack at that instead. If they'd had another film in between and done Age of Apocalypse last, and Age of Apocalypse had been another one, say, where it was another alternate reality, and they threw every mutant in there, every mutant you'd ever seen from all of the different ages, all of them in there. You could bring back any character you wanted. Doesn't matter if they've been killed off or not previously. You could have brought them all back. You could do the one-eyed Cyclops thing that they do in, you see in the cartoons. You can see what they want to do with it.
Yeah.
There's a load of stuff. You can add in new characters. They could have thrown in Morph, everything. It could have been great. But it wasn't. Awful. It was shit. It was shit.
It was crap. It was just so shit. Which, unfortunately, then leads me to finish our X-Men talk on this.
Which I don't think was actually as bad as Age of Apocalypse. I think they say they had to change the end of it because it was too similar to Captain Marvel, what they did in there with the train stuff and all, with the spaceship stuff. So that instead of being in space, they made it all on a train instead. But funny enough, that end scene that they changed, I thought was some of the better stuff of the film. That battle in the train was actually a lot of fun. That was actually, everyone using their powers really, really well. Nightcrawler's suddenly a savage bastard. It's fantastic. I really enjoyed him in that. Magneto was cracking in it. Everyone's really good. It was just probably the first 2/3 of the film that really let me down.
I've got to be honest, with this one, I had literally got to the point with Fox's X-Men movies when I was sitting there and I just literally could not give a shit. I didn't care. And I can't even, I know there's a battle on the train. I know there's an alien presence, but apart from what was going on, I can't remember what the fuck happened, and I don't care.
And you know what's really annoying? The alien played by the absolutely gorgeous lady, and I couldn't give a shit about her. It was just a bad character. It wasn't good. It should have been Lilandra in the Shi'ar, and it wasn't. It was some... They said, oh, we had to change it because we were going to put the scrolls in there. Well, why the fuck were you going to put the scrolls in there? The scrolls made no bloody sense anyway in the first place. You should have been using the Shi'ar. They were just a bit... The film's just... It's a bit shit. I preferred it to Age of Apocalypse. It was less shit than Age of Apocalypse because there was something that I quite liked, and that was the end bit. And it probably didn't hurt me that the end bit was like probably the most interesting bit to me. But, it's hard to do. I mean, when they bring Professor X in to meet Jean and all that, and suddenly make him walk up the stairs out of the wheelchair and everything, and it's just like, I'm shrugging my shoulders at that. It doesn't reel me in. That was really annoying, but the fight was kind of interesting going on outside, but not enough to really drag me in there. It was just, once again, first opening probably 10 minutes of it, they go into space, doing the thing out there to save the astronauts and all that, and them suddenly becoming heroes. That's really good. I like that. And then it rapidly went downhill.
Yeah.
And they tried to lay on as if there'd been a ton of character development between Scott and Jean that we hadn't seen. And we never saw it, and we never got it, and we never cared about them, full stop. Did you care about them? Because
No.
I didn't. I've seen that relationship in comic books for years, and I didn't care about them on screen at all.
I think one of the big things this suffers from, like a lot of these, First Class started off so well, really good film, although I forgot what happens in it. The second one, then, it just goes down so much. By the time we got to this, I think everybody just got fatigue again, X-Men fatigue, really. And it was all going on so well in the MCU that people went, what am I going to go and see? Am I going to go and invest my time and energy in whether Iron Man is going to defeat Thanos? Yes, please. Or do I want to go? If you're struggling with sleeping, if you've got insomnia, then get yourself the X-Men ones. This will help you get to sleep.
You want a mutant-powered cure for insomnia? They've got it right there.
It's spot on. It's just dull. I sat there, phone, check Facebook. It's just boring.
Is when you look at the amount of characters Fox had with X-Men.
Unbelievable.
And now you look at what Marvel have done with the MCU, with what little characters they had left to build a big universe up the way they did. Fox have wasted the opportunity here because they didn't have to keep making X-Men movies with the same fucking cast all the time.
Yeah, Marvel did it with the scraps.
They could have done it with different areas, different things going on, pulled a character in here, character in there, into the next one, and like the MCU is now. And that is why, really, if the MCU and Marvel do it properly, they can have two separate things going on concurrently and mix the two together. I'll be really disappointed if all we get from Marvel is an X-Men movie every 3 years. If we need, for it to work, an X-Men movie every year and spreading.
But a variety of X-Men, as you say, it doesn't even need to be an X-Men movie. It could be they could do a Wolverine versus the Hulk movie one year. Then they could move it on. It could be an Alpha Flight movie the one year. It could be an X-Men movie one year. It could be a Long Shot movie one year. It could be a Gambit movie one year. They've got a load of characters they could do with. They've got so many. They could do a New Mutants movie, and really, that New Mutants movie is apparently not bad. It's not great, but it's not bad. It shows they've got something with potential that they could use there. There's lots of offshoots of the X-Men idea that they can do tons with. X-Force, there's loads of stuff that they can do. I'm interested to see what they do with it. I'd like to see them do a show as well. Maybe I'd do a show on the Disney Channel about like the original X-Men, set it up with the proper characters and have that running. Then you could probably do that cheaper as well, because those early comics, I mean, they were pretty much villain of the week sort of comics. Yeah. They became more interesting when they became the all new, all different sort of X-Men. And they start going into the whole sort of the life of them. You could do that. You could have movies going, and you could have a show as well. The same idea. If you don't cast actors who are too expensive, you could actually do a TV show where you build up the personal lives sort of them with little battles and things like that going on, and then have the big movie event stuff going on where it leads towards a big movie event.
I think what the problem has happened with all of the X-Men movies that we've looked at over the past few weeks, and all 12 of them, excluding Deadpool, which we haven't really looked at, and Logan to a degree.
Yet.
The rest of it is of the standard of a 1990s sci-fi TV series with a lot of money thrown at special effects, because that's what the standard is. It's no better than a 1990s TV American sci-fi show to me.
It's Star Trek The Next Generation.
Some of them that I enjoy more than that. But
it's Star Trek The Next Generation for me.
Yeah, that's true. Davy's got it spot on.
It's Star Trek The Next Generation for me. There's just so I'm so ambivalent with it, and that's what Marvel have got this now. Do they start from scratch, or for me, I'd give it a breather. Don't go near them for 3 or 4 years. They're not going to be able to do much anyway because of the pandemic. But don't touch them until the end of Phase 4 at least, and go, you know what? Let's drop a subtle. What would you like? Because if they go right full on mutants, I don't know. People, they've seen it.
I think we've got to wait and see what happens in the Scarlet Witch thing and the Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah.
Because that could be the birth of mutants then.
I
So
think
you
that's
go
gonna
from first M Day, where she brings mutants into being.
I think they are going to lead up to the fact that the mutants are from an alternate universe. I don't think they're going to bring them into the current universe that we've got, because then they can do films spanning as much as they want to and contain it
Well,
into that.
from the sound of it, the new Spider-Man film, from all the rumor that's going on there with Jamie Foxx being in this multiverse thing,
That's going multiverse.
I think we are going to see somebody being brave and going, right, we're going to try this, and we're really going to throw this at you. And if they do that, then they could say, let's bring these guys in and we'll see from that universe.
It's not only about being brave, it's Sony being very fucking clever, because what they're doing then is they're saying, we now can do whatever the fuck we want. Because
they're saying, here's our roster normally, here's our roster now, we've expanded.
Because what we're doing now is the MCU is saying that the Spider-Man universe is as part of the MCU.
It's legit.
There's loads of alternate dimensions and alternate universes.
Yeah,
so
but
now
you say it's Sony being clever, but who wins? Everybody wins.
Everybody, yeah.
We get a great film. Marvel get the cash. Sony get the cash. Happy days.
That could be the way to introduce characters like Captain Britain as well. Captain Britain's always been a guardian of multiverse. You know, the Captain Britain Corps has always been watching over the multiverse. So that's going to be another interesting way of doing it. In fact, there is the crossover Spider-Man Captain Britain, where the spider suit is a Union Jack thing. It's pretty cool.
Right.
Yeah, there's some really good stuff you could do there.
Right. We have 5 minutes before we have to restart. So we need to quickly do some ranking before we get to the next part. So I'm going to kick things off. I've got to go 1, 2, 3, 4 on these. So the best one of these is X-Men First Class. Then, for me, Days of Future Past. Then, oh God.
See, I'll reverse them now.
By default, oh yeah, I agree, Mart. Oh, it's shit. But that is appalling.
The end bit's actually quite good, and the end bit's fun on it.
I've got to disagree.
1, 2, 4, 3. That's my X-Men.
I'm gonna go release order, but that means absolutely fuck all.
Yeah.
It just means that it just got shitter as it went along.
Yeah, Mark, I can't argue much with that.
There's nothing between. 4 could be better than 3, but I can't remember, and I don't care. And I'm not going to ever go back and watch it again.
I'll go 1, 2, 4, 3.
I've gone 1, 2, 4, 3.
I think 4 edges.
I am going to change it, and you might disagree, and I do dislike what they did, but I prefer Days of Future Past to X-Men First Class, purely from the fact that they actually tried to play with things a little bit.
There are people who would agree with you there.
It is is possibly the bravest X-Men movie. It's the bravest X-Men movie because I tried to do things. I prefer the Rogue.
No, First Class is the bravest X-Men movie because they really did change things. There's no other film that changed it like First Class. No. And if they followed on with Matthew Vaughn, you can't say that's not even something you could even make. Go on, make your argument then why that's not the biggest change in it. Go on, tell me why that's not the biggest change. The fact that they changed the actors, they changed the time setting, everything. They followed on what they do in First Class. You can't even make an argument with a straight face.
I can. Because if it...
Go on, make the argument then.
That much of a game changer and they changed things that much, everything would have changed. What actually they did, they wanted to make it a game changer. They wanted to change things up, but actually they fucking didn't because they were too scared. So it ended up being just another.
Except that they did. They took it back in time to change it over again. They took the characters back. They changed the actors. You know, okay, apart from the Wolverine, who's by his power is just permanently existing.
Guys, I'm gonna put a halt to the proceedings on X-Men. I've heard words like game changer, brave, doing something different. I'm going to ask you to return in a brief few moments. We need to talk about the final installment of Fox's attempts, and it's the Pool Man. So I'm going to say,
I don't know if I'll have the battery for that.
That's all right. We'll see what we can do. I will speak to you in a bit.